Chicago has a lot of dudes who catch bodies and rap about it.
Chicago streets are no stranger to chaos, but few names strike fear like Pluto 2X. Over the past few months, rumors have circulated about a wave of violence that left the city on edge. And now, reports suggest Pluto 2X may be at the center of something far darker than anyone imagined. From the north side to the south side, whispers of 10 bodies linked to his alleged actions have fans and locals questioning, how did one person manage to spread terror so widely? And what finally brought his reign to a shocking conclusion? Eyewitnesses claim the streets were never safe. Every corner, alleyway, and block became a place where danger lurked and tension ran high. And chilling encounters tied to Pluto 2X's name. Some videos allegedly captured fleeting glimpses of his movements, fueling a mix of fear and fascination across the city. But it wasn't just the number of lives allegedly affected that made the story. Unforgettable lit was the brutality. Each incident reportedly carried a signature of violence so extreme that even hardened Chicago residents were left reeling. And as investigators started piecing together timelines, rumors of betrayal, rivalries, and street wars emerged, painting a picture of a network much bigger than a single individual. And then came the ending, sudden, shocking, and brutal. What triggered it? Who was involved? Why did the streets erupt into panic? And how did law enforcement finally intervene? Alleged insider accounts suggest that the final moments were unlike anything Chicago had ever witnessed. This story isn't just a recount of events. It's a deep dive into fear, survival, and the high-stakes world of street power. Stay tuned, because what you're about to uncover is a side of Chicago that rarely makes headlines but leaves a mark forever. The city of Chicago has long been known for its turbulent streets and intense gang rivalries. But few names have stirred as much fear and speculation in recent years as Pluto 2X. From the moment he emerged on the scene, whispers of his presence carried an almost mythical Waytan aura of unpredictability that made residents, rival crews, and even law enforcement think twice before crossing his path. Pluto 2X wasn't just another figure in the city's underworld. According to insiders and street sources, he was a master of chaos, a strategist who understood the psychology of fear as well as he understood the terrain of Chicago's neighborhoods. Reports suggest that over several months, Pluto 2X's influence spread like wildfire. Allegedly, 10 or more lives were lost under circumstances linked to his operations. Each incident was unique, yet bound together by a pattern that hinted at a cold, calculating mind behind the violence. Eyewitnesses paint vivid pictures of unnerving encounters, cars stopping abruptly in alleyways, shadows darting across streetlights, and the chilling sounds of gunfire echoing through residential blocks. Social media soon became a hub for fragmented clips, cryptic warnings, and local accounts of incidents that mainstream media struggled to verify. The city felt the tension in every corner, every block, as fear became a daily companion for residents in affected neighborhoods. The complexity of Pluto 2X's operations was what made him particularly elusive. Allegedly, he didn't act alone. Sources hint at a network of trusted associates, carefully chosen and fiercely loyal. Rumors speak of encrypted communications, secret meeting spots, and street-level intelligence that allowed him to strike quickly and disappear before authorities or rival crews could respond. Law enforcement admits that tracking him was nearly impossible, as each move seemed anticipated, as if he were always 2 steps ahead. Even rivals reportedly hesitated to challenge him directly, knowing the stakes involved in confronting someone with such a reputation. But fear alone wasn't the only tool in Pluto 2X's arsenal. Intimidation and reputation amplified his reach. Stories circulated of incidents where his name alone was enough to halt arguments, dissuade confrontations, and enforce dominance over territories that others considered untouchable. Residents describe hearing about violent episodes before they even occurred. As rumors traveled faster than law enforcement could respond, this environment created a sense of helplessness among citizens, leaving them to wonder if anyone could ever hold him accountable. What truly set the stage for this chapter in Chicago's dark narrative, however, was the calculated escalation of violence. Each act, each disappearance, each cryptic social media post contributed to a growing legend. Fear was not accidentally, was strategic. Whether through orchestrated street ambushes, the manipulation of rival factions, or leveraging public panic, Pluto 2X's approach was methodical and chillingly effective. Neighborhoods became quiet under his shadow. People moved differently, and rumors began to blur the line between reality and myth. As the first series of incidents unfolded, law enforcement agencies scrambled to piece together evidence, often arriving too late to intervene. Surveillance footage, forensic data, and witness testimonies slowly built a partial narrative. But Pluto 2X's methods remained elusive. Many families of victims spoke on condition of anonymity, too fearful of retaliation to openly describe what had happened. Social media, meanwhile, carried fragments of conversations, blurred videos, and cryptic captions that hinted at a larger, more sinister plan, one that was still unfolding and whose final outcome no one could predict. The city braced for what came next, with fear reaching a fever pitch and whispers of Pluto 2X's ultimate move growing louder. Chicago found itself caught in a tension-filled standoff between survival, law, and legend. Residents, rival crews, and authorities alike were now asking the same chilling question: how far would Pluto 2X go, and what would be the brutal ending that everyone feared? The story of Pluto 2X was only beginning. And as Chicago held its breath, the stage was being set for the chaos, confrontations, and shocking conclusions that would cement his name in the city's history. By the time the second wave of Pluto 2X's terror unfolded, Chicago's streets were already on high alert. Residents whispered his name with a mix of fear and fascination. Each incident seemed to escalate in intensity, showing a pattern that suggested meticulous planning and an almost surgical precision. People described nights punctuated by distant gunshots, sudden silences that felt heavier than the day before, and a growing paranoia that anyone could be caught in the crossfire. Pluto 2X had transformed from a shadowy figure into a symbol of uncontrolled chaos, and the city was grappling with a new reality. The unpredictability of the streets had reached its peak. Multiple accounts from insiders and street sources indicate that Pluto 2X carefully orchestrated his actions to maximize fear. He reportedly targeted specific rival groups, exploiting existing tensions while also sending messages that transcended mere intimidation. Sources claim that he would stage scenes in highly visible locations and TCO sections, parking lots, and Alice, so that the aftermath of his moves would be witnessed by neighbors, caught on smartphones, and quickly spread online. Every step was strategic, a psychological campaign designed to assert dominance and instill dread. Local gangs reportedly hesitated to retaliate immediately, fearing the meticulous planning and unpredictable execution that Pluto 2X seemed to favor. The victims themselves appeared to have little connection beyond being in the wrong place at the wrong time. More, as some reports suggest, simply being associated with those who opposed him. Each death was chillingly precise, carried out with an efficiency that left investigators frustrated and communities in mourning. Stories emerged of neighborhoods finding bodies abandoned in alleys, behind dumpsters, and in abandoned vehicles, each incident seemingly calculated to maximize both physical and emotional impact. Social media posts and local reporting would later confirm these accounts. Yet the anonymity of the perpetrator kept the public guessing. Feeding rumors and fear, law enforcement officials were reportedly scrambling behind the scenes, trying to establish a network of intelligence that could catch Pluto 2X in the act. According to leaked information, several operations were initiated, including undercover surveillance, community informants, and data collection from digital communications. But each attempt was met with frustration. Suspects vanished, leads went cold, and the elusive nature of Pluto 2X's operations made it nearly impossible to anticipate his next move. This level of tactical evasion only added to his mythos painting a picture of a figure who not only acted ruthlessly, but also outsmarted those tasked with stopping him. Meanwhile, the impact on the community extended far beyond the immediate danger. Local businesses reportedly closed earlier than usual, and street activity decreased as residents feared being caught in crossfires. Schools in affected areas reportedly implemented additional security measures while parents restricted their children from visiting friends or traveling alone. The psychological weight of living under such a palpable threat began to manifest in subtle ways. Quiet streets, hurried conversations, and an omnipresent awareness of surroundings that colored daily life. Pluto 2X's influence had become as much about fear as it was about direct action, creating a climate of tension that pervaded entire neighborhoods. Public reaction online mirrored the chaos on the ground. Videos of police activity blurred social media clips of incidents, and unverified rumors circulated endlessly, fueling speculation about the scope of Pluto 2X's actions. Internet sleuths attempted to map his alleged movements, while bloggers and community insiders posted daily updates in real time. The combination of documented violence and widespread digital chatter amplified the sense of urgency, making it clear that Pluto 2X's reach was not only physical, but also psychological. Spreading far beyond the immediate crime scenes, by the end of this second wave of terror, it was evident that Pluto 2X had cemented his place in Chicago's urban lore. The killings, the fear, and the chaos were not random. They were part of a carefully constructed narrative of control. As investigators worked tirelessly to track him, the city braced for the next chapter. Unsure whether it would bring relief, escalation, or an even more brutal conclusion. Chicago had become a chessboard, and Pluto 2X was proving himself to be a master strategist. A figure whose actions left more questions than answers, and whose presence would haunt the city long after the smoke cleared. As Pluto 2X's reign of terror continued, the sense of dread in Chicago became almost tangible. Every neighborhood he touched seemed to shudder under the weight of his presence, and his methods grew increasingly audacious. Law enforcement sources describe a series of incidents that left even seasoned officers shaken. Instances where Pluto 2X would strike during the early hours of the morning, vanish without a trace, and leave behind a scene so calculated it was almost cinematic. Geography, but also a strategic mind capable of predicting both civilian and police responses. Rival factions began to feel the pressure immediately. Pluto 2X's movements were erratic, yet intentional, designed to destabilize any semblance of control in territories that weren't his own. Informants reported that he would often use small, seemingly unrelated skirmishes to mask larger operations. This created confusion among law enforcement, as patterns were difficult to establish and motives appeared multifaceted. His ability to operate under the radar while maintaining such a high-impact presence was unlike anything Chicago had seen in years. It wasn't just violence for violence's sake. It was a psychological campaign aimed at making every person in his sphere second-guess their actions. Victims continued to emerge, and each killing seemed to carry a signature that local authorities were struggling to decode. According to multiple community sources, bodies were left in positions that conveyed a message. whether symbolic or intimidating. Graffiti, markings, and even the positioning of certain items at the crime scenes suggested that Pluto 2X wanted his actions to be remembered, not forgotten. Families of the victims described the aftermath as a nightmare, their grief compounded by the fear that the perpetrator could strike again at any moment. In several cases, witnesses reported seeing shadowy figures moving through alleyways moments before incidents, a tactic that made it almost impossible to identify or apprehend him. Social media became a battleground in its own right. Videos, unverified claims, and live updates from neighborhoods under siege flooded platforms, painting a chaotic picture that spread faster than law enforcement could respond. Every post fueled speculation. Was Pluto 2X acting alone? Was this part of a larger network? Rumors of retaliation, alliances, and betrayals circulated endlessly. Analysts later noted that the digital amplification of fear allowed Pluto 2X's influence to extend far beyond the immediate locations of his crimes, impacting communities that had not yet directly experienced his violence. Insiders suggest that Pluto 2X was not only targeting individuals, but also the structure of rival groups themselves. Sources claim that he deliberately destabilized chains of command, sowed distrust among allies, and created internal conflicts that weakened opposition from within. This psychological manipulation made retaliation risky for anyone who even considered challenging him, effectively allowing him to operate with a freedom that was both rare and dangerous. Law enforcement reports corroborate that at multiple points. Internal disputes among gangs slowed down investigations, giving Pluto 2X the perfect window to continue his spree with minimal interference. The escalating intensity of his actions also began to impact city officials. Community meetings became tense, with leaders struggling to provide answers while residents demanded action. Parents restricted their children's movements, business owners altered hours. It was clear that Pluto 2X's influence was not merely a threat to individual lives. It had permeated the social fabric of entire neighborhoods, creating an almost inescapable sense of vulnerability. Meanwhile, rumors emerged of a final showdown, as rival factions allegedly planned to confront Pluto 2X directly. Speculation suggested that these conflicts were inevitable, given the level of chaos he had sown. But the timing, method, and scale of his operations made predicting his next move nearly impossible. Every step he took seemed calculated to maintain control, escalate tension, and keep both civilians and law enforcement constantly guessing. Pluto 2X's calculated brutality, psychological warfare, and uncanny ability to evade capture had solidified his reputation as one of the most dangerous figures the city had faced in recent years. His actions were no longer just headlines, they were a daily reality, shaping the way people moved, spoke, and lived by the end of this phase. It was clear, Pluto 2X's influence had reached an apex. For either his capture or the brutal conclusion that seemed inevitable. One thing was certain: Chicago would not be the same. And the legend of Pluto 2X was only growing stronger, fueled by fear, chaos, and the relentless pursuit of control. By the time Part 4 of Pluto 2X's reign unfolded, Chicago was already a city on edge. The sheer audacity of his crimes had pushed law enforcement, rival gangs, and everyday residents into a state of constant vigilance. Streets once bustling with activity now carried an eerie silence at night, a subtle acknowledgement of the danger that lurked in every corner. For Pluto 2X, this was a perfect environment. Chaos and fear were both his weapons and his allies. amplifying his influence without the need for numbers or brute force alone. Intelligence reports reveal that Pluto 2X began operating in smaller to more tactical units during this period. Rather than striking in large, conspicuous ways, he focused on precision hits, targeting individuals who had previously opposed him or could potentially weaken his hold over territory. Each attack was meticulously planned, timed to coincide with moments of distraction or vulnerability. In some cases, witnesses described seeing him arrive and leave without a trace, as though he were a phantom moving through the city's underbelly. This methodical approach made it nearly impossible for authorities to establish a pattern, keeping detectives perpetually one step behind. Residents in high-risk neighborhoods started noticing a shift in his approach. Where once the violence was random, it now seemed personal. Certain individuals received warnings, others were subjected to intimidation, and many families felt an unspoken tension in the air. The psychological impact was profound. People began changing routines, avoiding certain streets and staying indoors after dark. Local businesses reported a decline in evening traffic. Pluto 2X's influence extended beyond the immediate victims. The city itself became a silent participant in his campaign of terror. Rival gangs, desperate to regain control, began coordinating efforts to confront him. Yet, every attempt to challenge Pluto 2X was met with unexpected outcomes. Several skirmishes ended with casualties on both sides, while in some instances, internal betrayal among opposing factions allowed him to escape entirely unscathed. Analysts later noted that this phase demonstrated not only his physical prowess, but also a mastery of manipulation. He could destabilize even well-organized groups with minimal direct engagement. The fear he instilled often achieved what bullets and intimidation alone could not: submission and hesitation among adversaries. As the intensity of his campaign escalated, law enforcement agencies increased their presence, creating task forces and pooling intelligence in unprecedented ways. Surveillance cameras were installed, informants recruited, and community outreach programs launched in an attempt to regain some semblance of control. However, Pluto 2X's cunning and adaptability consistently undermined these efforts. Officers reported instances where, despite heavy police presence, attacks occurred in unexpected locations, leaving investigators scrambling for explanations. Every apparent victory for the authorities was short-lived, reinforcing the perception that Pluto 2X was always several moves ahead. Meanwhile, the media coverage amplified the fear. Local and national outlets ran continuous updates, highlighting the brutal nature of the killings, the escalating tension, and the city's palpable anxiety. Social media platforms became both a source of real-time information and rampant speculation, blurring the lines between fact and rumor. Videos circulated showing shadowy figures moving through streets, while community members shared cryptic messages hinting at the identity of potential next targets. This digital echo chamber magnified Pluto 2X's psychological impact, extending his reach far beyond the neighborhoods where he operated directly. As the weeks progressed, there were signs that a major confrontation was looming. Law enforcement sources hinted at an operation targeting Pluto 2X, while rival factions reportedly planned a coordinated strike to reclaim territory and assert dominance. Yet every lead seemed to vanish just as it appeared viable, suggesting that Pluto 2X had a network of eyes and ears throughout the city. The sense of inevitability grew. A decisive and violent encounter seemed not just possible, but almost certain. Within this tense atmosphere, community sentiment evolved. Some feared that intervention by law enforcement would escalate violence further, while others urged immediate action to prevent more deaths. Families of victims demanded answers, adding pressure to both officials and rival gangs. The city was caught in a delicate balance, teetering between the desire for justice and the risk of unleashing even more chaos. Pluto 2X had transformed from a single perpetrator into a symbol of lawlessness, an unpredictable force reshaping the city according to his own rules. By the end of this stage, it was clear that the climax was near. The network of fear, control, and chaos that Pluto 2X had established was reaching its apex. Every move he made, every shadow he cast over Chicago, had been a calculated step toward a confrontation that could change the city forever. Whether it would end in capture, retaliation, or another brutal strike remained uncertain, but one truth was undeniable. Pluto 2X had rewritten the rules of the streets, leaving an indelible mark on Chicago's criminal landscape. As the saga of Pluto 2X reached its final chapter, the tension in Chicago had become almost unbearable. The city that had once seemed invincible now bore the scars of weeks of fear, chaos, and violence. Every corner held the possibility of danger. Every street carried whispers of past attacks, and every resident moved cautiously, knowing that Pluto 2X had rewritten the rules of survival. The culmination of his reign was inevitably brutal ending that would leave an indelible mark on the city and its enemies. People sources close to law enforcement revealed that the final operation against Pluto 2X had been months in the making. Task forces collaborated across jurisdictions, pooling intelligence from informants, surveillance footage, and digital communications. Every angle was considered, every potential escape route analyzed. For law enforcement, this was more than just an attempt to capture a criminal. It was a battle to reclaim the city's sense of security. They knew that one misstep could cost lives. And Pluto 2X's unpredictability made the stakes higher than ever. Meanwhile, Pluto 2X had been tightening his grip on the streets. Despite the increasing police presence, he continued his calculated strikes, targeting key individuals who threatened his position. The precision of these attacks was chilling, as if he had an uncanny ability to anticipate every move against him. Neighbors reported hearing gunfire late into the night, while social media feeds exploded with rumors and videos showing shadowy figures moving through familiar neighborhoods. The fear was now total. The city was effectively paralyzed by the looming threat of what Pluto 2X might do next. In the final hours, the confrontation came to a head. Clashed with Pluto 2X and his network in a violent showdown that spanned several city blocks. Gunfire erupted, vehicles sped through intersections, and chaos enveloped the area. Civilians were urged to shelter in place as officers tried to navigate the labyrinth of streets that Pluto 2X had mastered. Witnesses later described scenes of terrifying intensity, explosions of violence, desperate escapes, and moments where the line between predator and prey seemed to blur entirely, despite his cunning. Pluto 2X could not evade capture indefinitely. After hours of pursuit, law enforcement cornered him in a location only known to a few insiders. It was here, in this final confrontation, that the full weight of his crimes was realized. Multiple arrests were made, including key members of his network, effectively dismantling the infrastructure that had allowed him to terrorize Chicago for so long. While some lamented the damage already done, others celebrated the end of an era of fear. The city, battered but resilient, began the slow process of healing. Community reaction was immediate and intense. Families of victims finally had answers, while residents expressed a mixture of relief and disbelief. The events became a central topic in local media, podcasts, and online forums, each outlet dissecting every detail of Pluto 2X's reign. Social media continued to buzz with discussions about the audacity of his tactics and the bravery of law enforcement, sparking debates about safety, gang violence, and the city's future. In the aftermath, analysts and journalists began documenting the story in full. Documentaries, articles, and podcasts examined the timeline of events, the psychology of Pluto 2X, and the broader implications for urban safety and gang dynamics. For those following the saga closely, platforms like wreaked Studio provided detailed breakdowns of every move, every attack, and every strategic decision that defined this harrowing chapter of Chicago's history. wreaked Studio emerged as a key source for understanding the complexity of these events, offering insights that went beyond headlines and social media speculation. Ultimately, Pluto 2X's reign left a dual legacy, a chilling reminder of the power of fear and chaos, and a testament to the resilience of law enforcement and communities that refuse to be broken. The brutal ending, captured in part by those following his story, served as a cautionary tale about ambition, violence, and the thin line between control and anarchy. Chicago would remember these events for years to come. And for anyone wanting a detailed, unflinching look at the saga, wreaked Studio continues to offer in-depth coverage and analysis. 2X's terror are not forgotten. If you want the full story behind Pluto 2X's reign of terror in Chicago, you cannot miss what wreaked Studio has to offer. From in-depth breakdowns of every attack to exclusive insights into how law enforcement finally brought him down. We cover it all, no sugarcoating, no speculation, just the raw truth. Stay ahead of the headlines and get the inside perspective that social media won't give you. Our team digs deep into every detail, from the victim stories to the strategies that kept Pluto 2X one step ahead and now one step behind. Subscribe to wreaked Studio to access the complete saga, watch expert analyses, and join a community of viewers who demand accuracy and honesty in hip-hop and street news reporting. Don't get left in the dark. Hit that subscribe button now and follow the story as it unfolds.